Alrighty, y'all. We've made it to the house. I gotta pack this machine up, get it on the trailer, because we're headed to pick up the new John Deere. Old Jay's here.
Yeah.
Picked him up on the way in. Gonna get this machine packed up here. Gonna look at the house for a second. Wish I was here working, to be honest, so I can try and get this thing wrapped up and over with, but family's important. So that is one hard balance when you're an entrepreneur, is your family work-life balance, and trying to juggle being a good dad, being a good husband, while also taking care of what you know God's asked you to do and doing the things that God's asked you to do. So it's a hard balance, but every once in a while you got to sacrifice a little bit, and that's just what we're doing here today. It's just a little bit of sacrifice in the afternoon. So let's get this thing loaded up, because I'm excited to go get my new piece of equipment. Alrighty guys, we have rolled up. I have spotted the beauty. Brand spanking new. Check this girl out. 325G. Oh man, they gave me a hat and everything. Check her out, man. High flow. AC cab. Even looks a little bit tinted. Counterweights on the back. Oh man, this is exciting. Look. Still so new, it ain't even got all the rubber off the tracks yet. Still got to break her in. Check her out. Hot diggity dog. Got radio, backup camera. Even got the front glass tinted, man. That's kind of cool. Old girl strapped down. All right, we're loaded up. Paperwork signed. Machine's on the trailer. She's officially mine. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, from the thumbnail of this video, the title of this video, and the beginning of this video, we bought a skid steer. We are extremely excited to be where we are right now. I have to be honest, I knew I was gonna probably buy a skid steer pretty early, but just to give you a little bit of backstory, I waited a year for this moment, and it's finally here. So I own a company called Parker Land Services. We do a lot of things outside. We do tree trimming, tree removal, land clearing, sod, residential commercial grade work. Basically anything outside, we do it. So for the last year, I have been renting a skid steer. I've been renting a 317G, and it has been a wonderful experience. It is one of the companies that I have not run before. I've run most skid steer companies. I've run Bobcat, I've run Cat, I've run Kubota. And so it was very interesting in the buying process. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. Bro, Paisley's knocking on the door. Hi, baby. I didn't know what kind of machine I wanted. I didn't know what size to get. I didn't want to limit myself, but I didn't want to buy too big and I didn't want to buy too small. It's a very hard thing when you pull the trigger on a piece of equipment, on something that costs this much. But it was necessary for my next steps in my business and to continue on living the American dream. I thought now was the perfect time to buy a skid steer. We'll be going into debt and why I don't really like debt, why I'm very careful with debt, and why I haven't gone into a bunch of debt. Over the last probably year and almost a half, I have been renting a skid steer from a local company here in the Central Florida area. We're gonna kind of dive into a little bit of the numbers of what my skid steer costed me while I rented it, what my skid steer that I just bought cost me now. Some of the differences between that machine and the machine I used to rent. So let's hop into it. So first of all, why did I think now was the perfect time to purchase a skid steer? Well, if I'm being honest with you, there are a couple key things that I was holding off on to make sure that I was secure in my business. A couple of reasons. So our first full year of business was this past year. We did $500,000 in sales, which is ridiculous for a first year business. I don't know if any of you guys know anyone in small business, and by no means am I saying this to pat myself on the back, because God deserves all the glory in this. But there are not many people who start up a business and within their first year cross over $500,000 in sales. If I was to break down our profit margins prior to reinvestment, so here's another thing. We're kind of going to touch on a couple of subjects here, but I promise I'll get back to the main point. So we've done $500,000 in sales. Our profit margins prior to reinvestment, I say prior to reinvestment because it's very important. So this past year, we had about a 50% profit margin on our jobs, which is fantastic. A lot of people, when you're starting out in this industry, when you're doing things like that, profit margin is much smaller. Sometimes it's between 10 and 25%. I shot for a 50% profit margin, and I pretty much nailed it right on the head. Here's the difference. I did not take home $250,000. The reason I did not take home $250,000 is because I poured a lot of that money back into the company. The company got trucks. I got a trailer with cash. I bought the grapple attachment for the skid steer cash. I bought the forks cash. I bought all the tires and everything that we have, except for a very small few things, we own completely and totally here at Parker Land Services. The only couple things that we have debt on is we have a little bit of debt on our newer flatbed truck, and obviously now we have debt on the skid steer. Rewind a little bit. Why right now did I think that this was the best time to purchase the skid steer? I just told you profit margin. Profit margin was one of them. I did not want to start my business if I did not know that my business was stable. So I've spent the last year digging deep and trying to make sure our business is as stable as possible. We've got a couple of big customers that love us, that don't want to work with anybody but us, and that is very key in building your business, is to get people in relationship with you, to build relationship, and I'd say that is probably the most important aspect of owning a small business. Another reason that I decided to pull the trigger on a skid steer now, I can't say I'm not into politics, because as a Christian, I don't really understand how you can't be into politics. I'm not going to go into that. I think that it is our duty. God has ordained government to be in its place, and He has given us the opportunity uniquely here in America and many other places to be able to vote and cast our vote as Christian. There's no hiding that I am a Donald Trump fan. Now, before you guys go and hate me in the comments, I really don't care if you don't like Donald Trump. I don't care if you do like Donald Trump. However, small businesses have got some sort of a fire under them since he has won the election. I was reading or listening to a video the other day that small businesses were up like 40 points. And it just goes to show you that people believe that he is going to benefit us. He is in there to benefit us. And I truly feel that. I feel the tax breaks that he's going to be getting. My tax bill this year was ridiculous. So we've gone to tax cuts, small business, just aura, the feeling of small business is just soaring right now. There's a bunch of people starting businesses. There's a bunch of tax cuts happening, so people are going to be saving money in business. And I truly believe, like I said, that Donald Trump is there to help us. I believe that he is going to change the way our economy is being run right now. And with the tax cuts that we have coming, that I have coming specifically in my business, I am very excited to save another 15%. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. My political rant is over. I'm very happy with the way things are going now. I'm very happy and excited and very optimistic for where we are going. So that is another one of the reasons why I decided to pull the trigger right now. The third reason I decided to pull the trigger on a skid steer was John Deere was offering a 0 down, 0% financing for 60 months. And when you're in a business like mine and you're looking at a tax bill like mine, I just got to be honest, there is definitely going to be no way you leave this conversation saying, yeah, Bryce likes the government. It's just not going to happen. So I'm just going to be very honest with you guys about that. But looking at my tax bill, obviously in a business, you're looking at tax write-offs, different things like that that are going to help you save, quote unquote, save money or lessen your tax bill. For a machine to be 0% financing and 0% down for 60 months, that is a huge, huge benefit to business owners, because I just knocked off a ton of my tax bill and I didn't have to put any money down. Now, of course, I'm going to pay for the skid steer. Okay, it was over $80,000 and it was over $90,000 including insurance, but that's going to be broken up into payments over time. I had to put 0 down and 0% financing. It was going to be silly for me not to do it. Why did I purchase a skid steer if I'm so scared of debt? Let me tell you one of the reasons I'm scared of debt. I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. I hope if you're watching this video, Dave Ramsey, that you do not smite me. I promise I love you. We're doing things very well. We're as debt-free as possible, and I've been debt-free. I have honestly never had debt until probably just a few short years ago. I've saved up a lot of money. I've done well. So please give me a pat on my back. Dave Ramsey, I love you. A couple of the reasons that I am very, very, very scared of debt is, number one, my parents instilled in me the Dave Ramsey plan. So I know how quickly you can get in over your head with debt. I do not want to do that. I have been very careful. I started this company with cash. I told myself I was not going to get in any debt. And I got to be honest, obviously, I have backed off of that a little bit. I think a little bit of debt is okay. I don't think that you need to be in $500,000 of debt in a $500,000 business, but I do think that there's a percentage of your business that it is okay if you are well established and if you are making very good profit margins, that it is okay. We are expected to grow, and I don't foresee us failing. So with that, I'm rolling the dice a little bit, but all in all, I think we can do it. A couple of the other reasons I'm really scared of debt and why I don't want to go into a ton of debt is because my old boss used to hold the debt for the business over my head. If I wasn't hitting the sales numbers that he wanted me to hit, and even if I did hit really great sales numbers, it was always very negative. I remember walking in one day after 1 month, one of my first months of doing sales. I had been really pushing hard, trying to build connections and talk with other people. And I had sold $20,000 worth of work in 1 month. I came into the office just to hear nothing but negativity. Nothing but, you don't even understand what the profit margins are. You don't understand what my taxes are on that. You know, you don't understand. And it made me very angry. I never want to put my employees in a position where I use my debt as a leverage over their head, say you're not working hard enough. You should be working harder even though you just got into sales and you did $20,000 this month. Completely disregard all that, not tell you good job. And I'm going to talk to you about how I'm drowning in debt, how I have 4 truck payments, 2 trailer payments, 2 skid steer payments. That's not my problem. And I never want to put my employees in that position. So that's number 2 or number 3, I've kind of lost count, of why I don't really want to go into a bunch of debt. But like I said, I think this step was necessary in taking that next step and continuing to live the American dream. I think I'm doing it a very safe way. I never want to be like that. I never want to put that kind of stress on my employees. And lastly, the reason I think this was a necessary step in me living the American dream was because when I was renting, I was pretty much throwing my money away. You see, eventually, this skid steer is going to be paid off and it will be fully mine. However, there's some pros and cons to this. The cost for me to rent a skid steer per month was $2,200. $2,200 a month times 12 months is $26,400 a year. So I was spending $26,400 a year on a machine that I did not even own. I basically paid their machine halfway off. And now they have not only gotten back almost $30,000 from that machine, but now they are going to rent that out to someone else and continue to make that. So they are most definitely benefiting from that. So now we're gonna go into our 325G John Deere. The total payment per month for this, including insurance, is $1,500. $1,500 times 12 is $18,000 a year. So right off the bat, I'm saving $700 a month or $8,400 a year by moving to this piece of equipment. That's the biggest thing that I think I can say has pushed me to doing that. I have a pretty big list, but I'd say the savings from that are going to be huge. I'm now going to be taking that $700, and instead of pocketing that money, I'll be putting that onto the debt that we have in other areas of the business, whether that's paying off the truck, and then once the truck is paid off, we will be paying probably a $2,200 a month payment. And let me be very clear and honest with you guys. A $2,200 a month rental for a skid steer is cheap in this area. I got multiple quotes and they were all $700 to $1,500 more than what I was getting this skid steer for. So huge shout out to the company I was renting this from in Plant City. It's called Alpha Equipment Services. They have been so good to me. When I started my business, I didn't think I was going to be able to rent from anybody. I called Sunbelt. I didn't have enough business credit. I called United Rentals. I didn't have enough business credit because I just started. I'm a new company. They won't let me rent big stuff that I was needing, big excavators for land clearing jobs. I called up Alpha. We've done some work with them, and they said, dude, no problem. We dealt with you anyways. We would love to be your machine supplier. So that's how I got in contact with them. They have great prices. If you guys need anything, please feel free to go see the guys up at Alpha. So now that we know our price differences between the 317G and the 325G, here are some pros and cons of rentals. We're going to be going through the 317G here, and just kind of over the last year, year and a half, me figuring out the benefits and the stuff that's not so great about renting. So a couple of the main benefits of renting a piece of equipment, and one of the reasons that I chose to rent a piece of equipment for the first full year of our business was because at any point, if I decided to take the machine back, there was no penalty. If at any point during my business started to become slow, we had a slow month, we had no jobs at all, my business completely failed, I did not have a $84,000 bill that I was liable for. I could very simply drive the skid steer back to the rental company, and then the keys, walk away, clean slate. Everything else I own, 100%, I have no debt. So I thought that was a very smart decision. I thought, well, first year of business, I have no clue how this is gonna go. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be successful. Looking at the cost of rental, I could not beat that price for the security that I had the last year. Now, I did pay a lot of extra money. Like I said, I paid an extra $8,400 this year for a machine, but I built that into my costs. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Like, even if I knew how successful I was gonna be right now, I probably still would have rented for the first year just because I wanted to have that security. Number two, there is no monthly maintenance when it comes to rental equipment. So when you come up on time for a air filter service, a fuel filter service, a hydraulic system service, whatever it may be, the rental company has to pay for it. Obviously, if you broke something on the machine, you had to pay for it. But when it came to monthly maintenance things or things that were not your fault, you did not have to pay for it. If the motor blew up, not my problem. It's a rental company. I would have them come pick it up and they would drop me off a new one. And finally, one of the last pros is that I had a 317G. If I decided to do a job that I need a bigger piece of equipment, I could simply go exchange that 317G for something a little bit bigger or much bigger and not have any penalty at all. Now for the cons. Of course, number one is you don't own it. You do not own it, so everything that you are paying, you are completely giving away all equity that you would be putting in to your skid steer. Number two, the skid steer that I had rented at my price was an open cab skid steer. Now there are a few cons when it comes to an open cab skid steer. It limits you to a small select few jobs, okay? So you cannot go do what a lot of people do with machines. A big thing, especially around here, because there's so much new build going on, so many new things going on, land clearing, forestry mulching, and brush cutting. When you are in an open cab skid steer and you have a piece of metal that is spinning at thousands and thousands of RPMs, slinging wood everywhere, kind of want to make sure you have a buffer between you and the thing that is slinging wood that'll go straight through your forehead. So it's limited me on a couple of jobs. I probably could have got an additional $20,000 worth of work, but I could not do it because my skid steer does not have the capacity to do it. Careful, baby. Say hi. Say hi to the camera. Okay, guys, the family decided to come out and hang out. It's a very cold night here in Florida, which is why we're sitting in front of a fireplace.
Are you sleepy?
Let me give you a kissy.
Get daddy kiss.
Yeah, there's fire. She's not a very loving baby. She's not a cuddly baby at all. Oh no, that's my microphone. Oh boy, this is turning into a nightmare. We have to force our daughter to love us a lot of the time. She is not a very cuddly baby at all. All right, love you. All right, that was interesting. As you guys can see, Paisley is not a very cuddly baby, especially when she's tired. A lot of times you're just forcing love at her. She does not want to give you hugs. She doesn't want to give you a kiss. But anyways, the next con is if you decide to rent a smaller piece of equipment and maybe you underestimated the job. Maybe you've never rented a bigger piece of equipment before, so you didn't know that you needed a bigger piece of equipment. Well, if you rent something and then you need something bigger because you don't know your machine's capabilities, they may not have it. I have run into that a couple of times where I've said, man, on this job, we've got some big stumps. The 317G is tipping pretty hard. I have no counterweights. I really need something bigger. I call the guys. All the skid steers are out. But when you rent from a smaller company, a lot of times that happens. So they do the best they can to work with me. It is definitely a worry. And lastly, if something did happen to the skid steer where it was down and I had no choice but to take it back myself if they couldn't get to it in time, or if they said it will be tomorrow but I needed it done today, you have to take it back to the rental company, which is a little far. This is just a con. The rental company was a little bit farther than where the John Deere dealership is going to be from my house. So now let's move on to the 325G. The 325G, like I said, cost me around $18,000 a year and or $1,500 per month. So we have some huge savings there. That's a huge pro. It's putting more money in my pocket each year. It's lowering my monthly costs. With this skid steer, I did upgrade the warranty. So I got a 4-year, 4,000 hour warranty for this machine. Now that monthly payment is insurance included. Number 2, the machine is mine, all mine. Every single month I can look at that and know that it is mine. As long as I make that payment, we are good to go. That's a huge thing for a business owner. When you start to build your business and you can look at something and say, I own that. It does something in your brain to make you want to push harder. It makes you want to do more. It's a very cool thing. The 325G is going to open me up to many more job opportunities. The 317G was an open cab skid steer. I was not able to do some jobs, some mulching jobs, a couple different things. With this 325G, we actually have a high flow option. So because we have the enclosed cab, I can now run brooms, I can run forestry mulching heads, I can run brush cutters, and it's all thanks to this high flow option. This high flow option basically just pumps more hydraulic fluid into whatever you're running to make it spin faster so that way you can do more things. 325G has a heavier lifting capacity. It's roughly able to lift probably about 500 pounds more than the 317G, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're doing simple things like scooping into a dirt pile, instead of bogging down to where I would normally have to back out of the dirt pile, this machine just powers straight through it. I've seen a lot of things like that. My hydraulics are a lot stronger in this machine. It's got a little bit more flow to it. I also have counterweights, as you guys saw whenever I picked it up. A lot of machines, they loaded me out whenever I bought this thing. These counterweights are gonna allow me to pick up some heavier things up front. So the lifting capacity for this machine is roughly around 3,000 pounds. Overall, the last pro that I have for the 325G is that this is a safer option for me. So one of the things that I continually ran into whenever I was running the 317G open cab was the fact that I was eating dirt all day long. I'm sure if I went to the eye doctor, they would probably punch me in the face because I have probably jacked my eyes up. In fact, I got so tired of my eyes getting jacked up, and then whenever I came home, blowing my nose and it being straight black, I got so tired of that I actually went and bought a pair of swim goggles, like, you know, the Speedo ones that they wear in the Olympics, the small swim goggles, and I would wrap a t-shirt over my head. I looked like an idiot out there. They were probably like, what is this guy doing? And even then, the t-shirt wasn't, you know, filtering out everything, so I was still breathing in dust. It was definitely not as bad, but man, was it awful. A lot of times, you know, when you have an open cab, you'd go to scoop something up or you'd be shaking dirt out. The wind would catch it and blow it all over you. If you accidentally went too far back, dirt would end up all over your feet. It's just not a very pleasant thing. So a lot of people say, oh, you have an open cab skid steer because you don't want to deal with the heat. I don't care about the heat. That's not the issue. The fact is, I don't want to be eating dirt all day long. It's a lot better of an option for me. It's much healthier. I'm not hacking up black stuff out of my lungs. I think probably that's one of the biggest things. That's why I wanted to end on it, was just because I feel so much safer in this. You know, if I'm running into a pile of trees, if I'm running into a pile of brush, I know that I have a windshield that will stop anything that escapes through the grapple and gets onto me. I actually have had times where I've ran into a brush pile and there was a limb that got through it and I stopped just in time before the limb impaled me. It's a very scary situation. Skid steers are very dangerous. There's a lot of power behind them, and a lot of times it's way too late before you even notice. And I was very lucky those couple times that happened. With an enclosed cab, none of that will happen. You have a plexiglass front window or a glass front window. At least it will help stop you if you have glass, and the plexiglass will not break or bust, so you will definitely be safe. A lot of guys who do mulching and different things like that, they run plexiglass doors. So obviously, a lot of the main differences are lifting capacity, high flow options, enclosed cab. A big one for me is the fact that this John Deere skid steer will be very easily accessible for me later on whenever my warranty does run out. If something does happen, there's a very cool option on this skid steer where the side panels actually release. So what you have to do, you have to get in the skid steer, you have to raise your arms all the way up as high as they'll go in the air. The way that they have engineered these arms, the arms get completely out of the way. You run around to the back, pop the latch, and you can pull the side panels off, which gives you almost a 360-degree entrance into the engine bay. It is insane the amount of room that you have. One of the biggest complaints from machine mechanics is the fact that everything is so tight. Most of your skid steers have a cab that actually lifts up. You have to unbolt a couple of bolts. Bobcat is that way, Kubota is that way. You have to unbolt a couple of bolts and the cab flips up, and that gives you access to your fuel tank, your hydraulic system, the backside of your engine if you need to do timing, a lot of things. But with this skid steer, it changes the game for people who enjoy doing things themselves. And as you guys know from this channel, I'm a big fan of doing things myself. We have framed our own house. I've done my own foundation. I started my own business. I like to do things myself. John Deere is known for needing to be worked on. Womp womp. I know a lot of people who don't like John Deere, and I know a lot of people who swear by John Deere. So every machine has their problems, but we'll see. If this machine does start giving me problems, I will have a much better chance of being able to fix it on my own. The last part of this video, I'm going to talk about my process of buying the skid steer. So I really hope you've stuck around. If you have, thank you so much. I hope you're sitting there like a proud grandparent, a proud mom, a proud dad, and you guys can see that living the American dream is still possible, that people are still continuing to do it every single day, and I want to encourage you to do it. I want you to encourage your kids to do it. I want you to encourage your grandchildren to do it. But lastly, I want to talk about how easily I got financed through John Deere. So originally, I did not want a John Deere. I had rented a John Deere, but I originally wanted a Kubota, and one of the main reasons I wanted a Kubota was because of the way the door opens and closes. A John Deere and almost all of the other companies other than Kubota and Takeuchi have a door that opens outward. Now if you have a big pile of brush, or if you put your arms up in the air and you need to get out, say you're getting a pallet on a trailer, you can't, because if your arms are up in the air, you open the door and it hits your arms. However, in a Kubota, you can slide the door in and up above your head. You can get in and out. To me, it is such a good design. I don't know why every skid steer company hasn't already switched to this. I know a lot of people say that it doesn't seal as well, and I think the pros far outweigh the cons whenever it comes to switching to this. But Kubota was being a little bit stingy. My credit score was fantastic. It was over an 800. I walked in, I signed some paperwork on a Kubota. They said, we will get back with you probably next week. I gotta say, I walked into Kubota that day. I had to find my own sales rep. The sales rep that I had really didn't want to talk to me. He tried to push me off onto somebody else who was already busy, and it seemed like I was just an inconvenience to his day. I have to be honest. I have been to 3 different Kubota dealerships. Every single Kubota dealership has been like this. It's one of the reasons you lost me as a customer. Number 2, I also did not get processed through for financing. I have no clue why. The best thing that they could give me was that I had not pulled out enough debt in the past for them to trust me with something this big. Why that is, I have no idea. I don't get it. But obviously everything happens for a reason, and God has ordained that to happen. He didn't want me to have a Kubota, I guess. So I quite literally called Alpha Equipment. That's who I bought it from. They are actually a John Deere dealer. Bought it through them. So I called Logan. I said, hey man, I'm actually not going to be bringing this rental back. I don't know why, but I just got denied through Kubota financing. I was baffled because at one point I had multiple skid steers rented. I was paying $4,500 a month for skid steers. I was renting other things other than that. I probably was doing between $4,500 and $8,000 a month with this company. I was baffled because I've never missed a payment. I'm not one of those guys where you gotta wait till I collect in order for you to run it. I've been very responsible with my finances, so go ahead and run it. So he was baffled. So he messaged one of the guys at John Deere and said, hey, I would love to get this guy into a machine. He just got denied through Kubota. I have no clue why. Here's his credit score. Here's everything that you need. I kid you not, guys. I got sent an application via email. I finished the application, and 2 minutes after I hit send, I got an email saying I was approved. It's too easy to get approved. Honestly, it kind of scared me how easy it was to get approved through John Deere, because I thought there is no way that in 2 minutes you guys figured out that you would be able to loan a skid steer for $85,000. But they did. So that was so easy. It was unlike Kubota. Don't go to Kubota. Quite literally go to anybody else. But guys, that is going to wrap up this video. I hope that this video gave you some knowledge. I hope as you guys watch this video, it kind of gave you guys a little bit of an oomph to maybe encourage somebody, or maybe even go out on your own and start your own business. But what I do want you to do is just take that leap. As long as you are willing to work hard, you can be successful. I am living proof of it right now.
All right, guys, that is all for this video. Thanks so much for watching. We are gonna go inside because it is freezing. Let us know in the comments how cold it is, where you're watching from. But I think that's it. Keep living the dream.